is no longer with the unit to run the midfield. Justin Hack is in that position, playing in that number 6 role. He's there with Keaton Parks and Maxi Morales, who signed that additional year for New York City at the age of 37.
Ilinic went down, drawing the foul, and now we're back underway. Here's NYCFC. That cross to the back post and headed away. Possession lives. Kevin O'Toole has it for a moment and gives it up. This is.
Well, if you're marking Fernandez, who's on the right, he wants to get it to his left peg. He's that modern winger. Play on the right, get it to your left, and serve. And that's certainly a position where the fullback on the left, Leibold, the German, needs to be well aware.
They try to switch it to the outside, and jumping on that is John Polskamp for Sporting Kansas City. In talking, though, Glenn, about the coaching change for NYCFC, they're one of 12 teams in the MLS this season that make a change at the head coaching position. It really gives that vibe that MLS has turned the corner into a high-pressure win-now league where the expectations for really every franchise across the board are through the roof.
Well, they're investing more money in players, more money in infrastructure, and I think you're absolutely right. There's greater expectations, and there's going to be a shorter leash for coaches in Major League Soccer, although that leash is generally much longer than in other parts of the world, in particular England.
Sporting KC will track this one back inside their own 18. Both teams going through some early feeling out here in this contest. Jansen Miller, the rookie out of Indiana, has it now, and he's taken down from behind.
Maxi Morales looking towards the referee. You can see the palms extended. What did I do?
Play back underway. They'll switch it to this outside. It's Leibold now. The German crosses it in. It falls through, bouncing around and cleared away decisively by NYCFC. Early pressure applied by Sporting KC.
Well, that's Shallowy, who's very good in the box. This is his 10th season with Sporting KC. A lot is expected of him as he plays to the right of Joveljic and Eric Tommy on the left. That's a good front three for Sporting KC. And they've recently signed a couple of other players, both from the same club team overseas, including a key number 10. They're not here, though, not available as of yet.
Played back to Volader. Pressure collapsing in here from NYCFC. Sporting KC has to move with it. Still searching for options. Up the near touchline they go. They connect with Leibold. Now Volader goes back. Radoja calm under that pressure. Had Maxi Morales sniffing around, hounding him. And now Polskamp with it.
Well, that's the visual cue to press, and Maxi comes from an attacking midfield role to push forward, even ahead of Alonso Martinez, who just slides and makes the tackle there for New York City and Parks down from behind. Jake, I wanted to specify that it's Manu Garcia who has come in as the number 10, but again, not yet available, and Sulaimanov, Shapi Sulaimanov. They're both from the Greek top tier. But it's rare when two guys from the same club team come in. Peter Vermees didn't say it was a coincidence, but it was Garcia who they really have been targeting for a long time, and it just worked out for the winger to come in as well. So there are reinforcements also for Sporting KC, who are in a rebuilding mode still, and their supporters have to be gamely aware of that. But at the same time, you're still looking to galvanize and make the postseason. So that's part of the critical nature of this too. So it's a real blend for Sporting KC right now.
With all the changes on the pitch for Sporting KC, another one comes off of it, and that is that Peter Vermees is now just solely the head coach. Mike Burns, sporting director for Sporting Kansas City. There was a tweet that went viral from one of the Sporting KC beat reporters where they asked Peter Vermees, how does it feel to just have to worry about head coaching responsibilities?
I'm sure he had a big smile.
He did. The smile across his face said everything. And it really does take one less thing off the plate of an MLS head coach and allow them to focus on the tactical X's and O's.
Well, in talking to him pregame, he said just that, and he said, and then we were standing behind one of the goals, and he just pointed over towards his bench. He goes, "Look at all the people over there." And I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about the staff, the support staff. The responsibilities are immense, and to add the sporting director or general manager role to that as well is just—it's too much of a burden. And yeah, I mean, that's got to help Kansas City too, that their head coach is more intent on the sporting side of it.
Lifted up ahead. Takes the touch, does Martinez, but it's cleared away by Sporting Kansas City. Now breaking out, it's Joveljic. Shallowy now leading the charge. Numbers if they move. To Joveljic. Joveljic stopped by Freeze. The best build-up of the day from either team comes from Sporting Kansas City, and Dejan Joveljic stonewalled by Matt Freeze.
Well, rest defense, that is preparing for the unexpected. Alonso Martinez takes that shot. It's blocked nicely by Miller, the rookie, and then that leads to the counter by Shallowy. He finds Joveljic, and the angle became too sharp for him, too acute, but Freeze had that near post covered well.
It's lifted up ahead. It is Maxi Morales. That will come to a rest at the feet of John Pulskamp, who will try to stretch the pitch with a long pass out. Up ahead to Morales. Morales just 5'3", but a real battler and can do things like that. Decent crosses in, and now we have a whistle from our center referee. There is a Sporting KC player down.
Justin Hack, the New York City midfielder, on the ball just a moment ago. Hands on hips right now as the Sporting KC player is tended to. Can't quite see who it is. But Hack, what an important figure he's become. And there's the rookie center back pictured for a moment there, 27, Jansen Miller. Interesting story there. But first, Hack. Last summer, there was the possibility that Hack would move from the club. There was maybe a search for the proper team because he was getting limited minutes. The homegrown, who has become very valuable from that point on when there were injuries, filling in at the back, both fullback and center back, mostly center back, in the midfield where he, I think, likes to patrol more than anything. And now with the departure of James Sands on loan to Germany and FC Pauli, without anyone coming into that midfield spot on a transfer, this Hack adjustment to be the full-time central midfielder. It's a very important preseason for him and the club.
Play back underway following the injury stoppage. It's worked up to Joveljic, but the flag is up. Both these coaches leading up to this Coachella Valley publicly have talked about how important it is to play in a competitive tournament like this and how it sets the stage for the upcoming MLS season, which, as you and I both know, MLS is back week right around the corner, February 22nd.
Yeah, Feb 22. So each of these teams are using this Coachella tournament wisely. New York City, they're going to play everybody on their roster that they brought, and that is healthy in this match. That won't happen probably in games 2, 3, and 4 in the Invitational, but trying to give everybody a fair opportunity based on training as well.
Joveljic makes connection with the head, and it stood up at that midfield stripe now. Players tangled up. That will draw a whistle from our center referee this evening, Brandon Stevis.
So the plan for New York City, a number of players will play 60 minutes. Some will play just 45, and that's on either side of either half. So there'll be 60-minute players, 45-minute players, and 30-minute players for New York City in today's match. Kansas City, they're being more, as long as everyone survives the first 60 minutes, that is, they are not taken off injured. It's 60 minutes for the starting 11 with the exception of Joveljic. Mason Toy will come in 30 minutes into this match, and then 10 new players will play the final half hour of the match. So both coaches going at it a bit differently, and it's best laid plans. You never know how those might change based on what happens in a match.
Radoja tried to carry it forward, ran into a wall of blue, not his own blue, NYCFC blue, Sporting KC still on it, though. Here's Rodriguez. Finds Joveljic. Takes the touch. Leaves it off. Shot partially deflected. And kept in the lines of play by Matt Freese. Eric Tommy couldn't uncork a proper shot.
Well, you get an idea there why Joveljic is such an effective striker in this league, and his movement off the ball. So just a little drift to the left and then an explosion towards the area. And then you see what he does with his first touch, gathers it in nicely as he went up against Strajinovic at the back for New York City FC. Tanasijevic, rather. Strahinja, his first name. He's got a little bit new, a new do this year, new cut. I didn't recognize him at first. And a new number. 12 last year, 19 this year.
Really putting the definition of new year, new me to the test. This one rolled central and skips over the boots of Fernandez.
Well, it was O'Toole getting in for New York City FC, and what happened next is the ball skipped past Leibold, and it never touched Leibold, but for Fernandez, it altered the path visually for him, and that's why he was not able to get a connection.
Here's NYCFC again, asking questions of this SKC defense. This shot rolls toward goal and just skips wide of the near post. It was deflected on its way out, though, so NYCFC shirts will move forward for this corner, first of the match for NYCFC.
Alonso Martinez nearly finished that chance. That's a pretty critical deflection there. One of the reasons he moved into that starting role as a striker and scored 16 last year is not just his ability to get the shot off quickly, but to get it on frame.
They short the corner. Rodriguez tries to lay this back off to Fernandez. Cycling it around to Ojeda. Lifted toward the area, and the flag will come up again.
Good idea, reverse ball. So they play it short. Then the ball goes across the field. And you saw when Fernandez played a little square ball and then eventually got to O'Toole, he just kind of darted towards the back post, didn't time the run in a way to keep him on side, but well constructed, that short corner.
Pulskamp and SKC will have a goal kick to get play back underway. Work to the outside. This is Leibold. Leibold just runs out of real estate, and that will be a change of possession via the throw-in. The presence of Fernandez there right near Leibold caused him to run over the touchline.
How about the backdrop here, Jake?
Incredible. I mean,
it's pretty pleasurable to call this one. I mean, we're just at the top of the bleachers, out in the open. It's beautiful. Temperatures in the 80s.
A decent broadcast position, to say the least,
yeah,
right?
Oh, absolutely. A good enough height to be able to see things strategically, and we could certainly hear the players and how they're barking instructions.
That is Ilinic that was down and impeded by the SKC player. This will result in a free kick for NYCFC. Bit of a sharp angle here. Glenn, how would you play this?
I like the left footer taking it here and then in-swing it, because if they put it in the proper spot in the area between the 6 and the penalty spot, it's a really difficult ball for the keeper to judge, and also the sun is directly in the eyes of the Kansas City keeper. So we'll take it right-footed.
Hacked away for a clearance by SKC as Ilinic will go give chase.
Now I'm definitely saying it should have been the left footer. But you saw Pulskamp, shielding his eyes. If you can put that ball behind the defense and in front of him and whip it in there, which Fernandez has in his repertoire, I'm a bit surprised he didn't take it.
As the sun starts to set here in Indio, California, shadows starting to lengthen a little bit. Back on it is NYCFC. This lifted into the penalty area, headed away at the spot by Leibold. A little roller toward Pulskamp, who clears it away. Tanasiewicz battling in. Eric Tommy, safe to say he disagrees with the call. Wagged his finger at the referee, said, no, no. In a preseason match, you can get away with that. In the regular season, you may have to be a little careful wagging your finger at a referee.
Well, Eric Tommy's been in the league and with Sporting KC. If there's no captain that's been named for Sporting KC, but if Peter Vermees had to label the leader, it is Eric Tommy.
Rolled back to the outside. Here's O'Toole. Tries to cross this in. It deflects over the bar and out.
Keaton Parks flashing hard to the front post. Interesting, he scored earlier in preseason in the second match, the opening goal, with his feet. And as he explained after the game, it was the first time in like 4 years that he had scored with his feet. A lot of head ball goals for Keaton in his career.
Basong trying to dance past defenders. John Pulskamp making his thoughts known on that. Should have been a yellow card. This has been a physical match to start here. We're just about 20 minutes into this contest.
Well, Jake Davis took a positive touch around O'Toole, and Kevin understood that Davis was just going to sprint around him and get into the New York end, and that's certainly a tactical foul by O'Toole.
Intercepted right at the feet of Fernandez. Back comes NYCFC. Martinez couldn't split those last two defenders. Here's Morales now, a goal and 5 assists last season. Just about 50% of the time he was per 90 completing accurate passes last season for this NYCFC team. He's such a catalyst for what they want to do, and you've hinted at that throughout this first half.
No question, and you know it leads to a free kick, and with Maxi Morales standing there and Julian Fernandez again, now I'm going to say I'd like the right foot in swinger. So you got Maxi the righty and Julian Fernandez, and okay, the lefty will take it, and it falls short again. So both of their services, one on one side, one on the other, they both did not get over the first defender. Therefore, we recognize New York City gets a corner out of this, and that's fortunate. But both services were, in retrospect, poor for their level.
NYCFC accumulated 177 corners last season. They're second already today. Morales will take it. Morales in swinging. Headed on goal, just misses the near post.
Well timed by Keaton Parks.
Parks a goal and 2 assists last season. Nearly found a goal there to unlock this contest. Still 0-0 through 22 minutes of play. Sporting Kansas City looking for their first win in the preseason. They are 0-3-0 as we have a quick whistle. One of those losses came in a college friendly against FIU, and as is the nature of Twitter and social media, a lot of Sporting Kansas City fans had some heartache over that, and Peter Vermees and company around the club reminding people, sort of as you mentioned earlier, Glenn, we're in the process of fine-tuning these things. We're rebuilding these things. We are getting to where we want to go. There are going to be some growing pains with Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah, but you also don't want to lose to a college team. I mean, I'm telling you right now, that did not sit well with anyone in the Sporting KC camp, I'm sure. But you also have to, I mean, I don't even know how the personnel would use that game. I don't have a real strong feel for what happened in that game. You know, you have matches in soccer, it could be 30-1 shots, and you lose 1-0. Nonetheless, it's not good to lose to a college team.
I had a college head coach once tell me, and this has stuck with me for my entire life, soccer is a cruel, cruel game. Leibold gets whistled for the infraction, and that will be an NYCFC free kick following the foul.
Yeah, I'll support that. as far as the cruelty of the game. But it's why we love it as well. Because you end up falling on both sides of it at some point if you're in this long enough.
Quickly forward with it. Ojeda has it on the outside. And it will be another corner for NYCFC, their third of this first half. They are doing a good job, Glenn, of stacking up set-piece opportunities early.
Yeah, and one of their teenagers made it happen there, Augustine Ojeda. And, the one thing about the press conference yesterday, first with the sporting director David Lee and then the new head coach Pascal Janssen, the young players were emphasized in both pressers.
As that's headed away from danger by SKC. And that is a theme, the youth, the development, the homegrown players we've seen from a lot of these teams participating in this Coachella Valley Invitational. A team like Real Salt Lake comes to mind as well, with how much emphasis they put on their homegrown talent. Portland as well.
No question, that's part of the rebuild for Sporting KC. Peter said prior to the game there's a 16-year-old in the academy system, a 6'3" center back that is just physically is ready to play, but not mentally, and the different things that you have to take into consideration. But it's players like that as they continue to build through their academy. And on the New York City side, David Lee, the first question asked of David Lee, because this was his first public appearance since Nick Cushing was fired, and why the removal of Cushing and bringing in Janssen, and it had to do with consistency, number one. He pointed to that, but also, and he mentioned it on multiple occasions, the development of players. And Pascal Janssen, the 51-year-old at AZ Alkmaar in particular in the Netherlands, really had a good track record, a good history where rosters changed from year to year, and he developed these young players.
Janssen does bring a great deal of international experience to this NYCFC touchline. 192 matches coached. Heads up in the bleachers. 192 matches coached in Europe. Has coached in the UEFA Champions League, the UEFA Conference League as well. That's a resume that obviously jumps off the page at a lot of people and has people excited about what Janssen can do with this club.
Well, and he also adheres, for the most part, to the CFG, City Football Group philosophy. Every coach that's been a part of the New York City system.
Here's Parks, still battling in, gets past Leibold, now plays this central, and it falls through. O'Toole gives it up to Hack. And now a takeaway from SKC, looking to fling this ahead. Joveljic. The flag stays down. It's Joveljic. Oh, what a well-timed sliding challenge to knock that away from Dejan Joveljic. It concedes a corner, but just like that, SKC able to turn the field on its head, and there's why Joveljic is so special.
Well, Burke Risa, he was trying to hold the line to put Joveljic in an offside position, did not. Joveljic had this head start. Risa tracked back and made that tackle. That was a wonderful recovery by Risa, who didn't really hold a proper line, needed one more step.
In swinging ball, headed toward goal and wide. Both teams have now had good looks off corners that just skip wide of the near post. SKC, the most recent, on the receiving end of that.
Well, that one wouldn't have counted if it went in. Parks was fouled in the area.
Matt Freese has it at his feet, and we're back underway. Coming up on that half-hour mark played, still 0-0 as it takes a hop over Kevin O'Toole and out. Change of possession will occur via the throw-in. Volader will switch it to the far side, and SKC will try their hand down the far alley. Rolled through, looking for Joveljic. It was behind him, and it's cleared away by NYCFC. To the near touchline, it's Leibold. Radoja surveys his options now. That press collapsing in on Radoja. Good connection up front. Eric Tommy now with it. Flanked with support, it's Leibold. Gives it up, Basong. Beautiful ball work from SKC. Rolled to the outside to Tommy. Flipped back into the middle and headed away by NYCFC. Giving chase is Volader. Bend but don't break right now for this NYCFC defense. Sporting Kansas City starting to put a little pressure on them now as this half drags on.
For any New York City supporters listening in, wondering where Santi Rodriguez, Hannes Wolf, Thiago Martins, they are all nursing injuries. Wolf is almost back. He's been out for a little bit. Santi Rodriguez is mostly just being given some time, so we expect he'll be back for game 2 against San Diego.
Ojeda leading the charge. Cuts to his right. Ojeda's shot deflected away. SKC able to pull in the loose ball. It's Jake Davis. And now we have a whistle, and that will end the Sporting Kansas City spell of possession. Free kick coming for NYCFC.
In the midst of all that, Burke Risa with an important defensive header, and I think of Burke and how important he'll be this season as the left central defender for New York City, and that brought to mind Thiago Martins, the captain, the designated player. So he's been out quite some time. It's a calf injury. Pascal Janssen identified that prior to the game, so he's not quite able to play, but it's not of a very serious nature, so I think that would be good news for those who support the club. And both teams are without U17 players. Jack Courtcamp, who Peter Vermees is really high on in goal for Sporting KC, he could well be the backup this year to Pulskamp, we'll see. And then Maximo Carrizo, the attacking midfielder for New York City FC, a homegrown. I was kind of looking forward to seeing him out here, but he's not here. Good for him, though.
Parks turns, flings this one forward. Fernandez will track it down. Locked in a battle with Leibold in this near corner, and Leibold will get the better of him that time. Ojeda intercepted by his opposite 26. This rolled through the middle, on the doorstep, a tap-in goal, but no, the flag comes up, erasing the breakthrough for NYCFC.
Well, that was close. Ojeda started it, though, with just a wonderful soft reception, delicate, and then another nice ball to cross the face of goal. And Fernandez, again, just caught in an offside position. So those two, Ojeda's the other youngster. We were talking about the young players, their development. Ojeda is another one where New York City would like him to log more minutes, along with Fernandez in 2025.
Coughed back up by SKC. Counter pressing now. And just out of the reach of Augustine Ojeda. Again, Leibold able to clear it away. That will draw a whistle from our center referee as Mason Toy went to the pitch.
Well, the young man at the back for Sporting KC, the rookie, making a very strong statement thus far in these first 30 minutes or so. The 22-year-old rookie, Jansen Miller, 8th pick overall in the MLS Super Draft. How about this? He played at Indiana. It's their 8th straight year with a top 10 pick at the draft. 8 consecutive years. That's Todd Yeagley, that whole program, the Godfather, Jerry Yeagley.
I was going to say, that might as well be called the Yeagley program with the dad and the son connection. Multiple Yeagleys on the roster as assistant coaches with with Todd Yeagley. I cover a lot of college soccer during the fall. It's my favorite thing in the world is college soccer. I even have a college soccer podcast. I talk to all these coaches, and the one thing they say, you need to talk to Todd Yeagley. You need to get Todd Yeagley because that's a guy that needs to be talked to about college soccer. I mean, he really is. He His dad already is, and he has quickly turned into one of the titans of the sport. And Indiana is the gold standard in college soccer.
Yeah, no question. Leibold, the 31-year-old left back, you see how he got in there. That a bit of a delayed run out of the back. He just kind of held his ground here wide left and nearly got in. This is a guy that's he's considerably effective on the attack, or can be. 1 year at Hamburger, when he played in Germany, he had 16 assists in a single season, which for a fullback is pretty remarkable. So he likes to get in. We'll see how many more times maybe he can foray into that final third here in the opening half.
Headed down by Toy. Memo Rodriguez had it for a moment, and now the flag comes up again. Someone in an offside position for SKC. Still no score as we come up on the 35th minute now here in our final matchup of day one of the 2025 Coachella Valley Invitational. We've seen some great fan support, great matches so far here on day one. A lot of people are very excited about the upcoming MLS season as well. It's been branded as the biggest MLS season. 30th year of the league. Now 30 teams will be participating, with San Diego FC debuting in February.
Wow, that 30-30, I could see the marketing people there, they're drooling over that. It's so much you could do with that.
Resell, we'll work it ahead.
It's interesting. San Diego, the 30th team, New York City's next opponent here at Coachella.
Here's NYCFC. They roll this central, and it's cleared away by Volader.
Cut back by Ojeda. Maybe not enough movement from Maxi Morales. He just stood his ground. Kansas City had made an adjustment defensively, and then maybe now you've got to adjust as well. Darting movements. Sometimes you just take a couple of steps backward to get into that gap, but that's one of the most dangerous attacking plays in soccer, when your wingers can get to the end line.
Here's Fernandez. Knocked to the turf is Eric Tommy for SKC. Possession lives for NYCFC. They work it to the outside, now cut to the inside, looking for the give and go. Back over to Augustin Ojeda, and Pulse Camp all over it.
Well, you see Ojeda, he's playing with a lot of confidence, and that's been developed here in the preseason. Last year was up and down for him, as it could be for any young player. Argentinian is someone who you see flashes, and part of Pablo Janssen's charge, along with his staff, is to get more consistency out of Ojeda and more goal contributions. I mean, that's vital. And that's one thing we'll watch closely, the development of both he and Fernandez under the new leadership, although the assistant coaches are pretty much 100% in place from last year.
That shot from Toy misses the net wide of that near post.
Yeah, Mason Toy, there's the substitution coming in for Dejan Joveljic. So the debut of the $4 million cash transfer within MLS, the first ever under the new budget rules, cash for a player, and it's exciting stuff. It's not my cash, so I let them spend.
And these teams, they are spending this offseason. The transfer news, you basically need to refresh the MLS website every 5 seconds to keep up with the latest transfer news, whether it's non-league transfers or in-league transfers. It is going fast and furious. Sporting Kansas City, as you've talked about, with Dejan Joveljic has been a part of that, but also bringing in Manu Garcia, Mason Toy as a free agent signing, and they've been busy reforming their roster for this upcoming season as well, bringing in some very talented attacking players.
Yeah, and that's what it takes. It's every coach will have their own fielding on this, but there's a certain amount of goals that you need to score in order to make the playoffs, in order to put yourself in the top 4 and get home field advantage in the MLS Cup playoffs. And it's something that you monitor over time. And, you need 50 goals Is it realistic for all teams? Maybe not, but that's what you really want to get to. And sure, you're going to concede.
SKC reached that 50 plateau last year, but as the flag comes up for offside, finished with a minus 16 goal difference.
Well, you can't
66.
if you concede 66 times. That's different. So, I mean, you can't have a negative differential like that and expect to make the postseason. So you're right. You called it right there, but you might concede a little bit more if you're committing more players forward in an attacking way, but you can't leak them to that end. Look at the LA Galaxy conceding 70 goals in 2023, and they come back in 24 and win MLS Cup. They had to put the clamps essentially through organization and a commitment from players in front of the ball to defend, and well, they obviously got it last year, but they got a lot of goals, as you know. That front line, they were all double figures.
And now LA Galaxy's front looks vastly different than what it did last season. Obviously, the injury to Ricky Puig will keep him out for extended period of time, but considering the players that they've also transferred out, they also have brought new guys in as well that really should be exciting for that fan base as they look to chase another star on the crest.
Well, Joveljic out. Brugman goes to Nashville.
Yep.
Which is interesting. He was the MLS Cup MVP, and he was essentially the replacement for Ricky Puig, who went down with the ACL. So it's putting pressure on certain players to, does Marco Reyes take more of a playmaking role? Is it Fagundes who comes in? He might be the natural 10 there. Not natural, but the one who fills in for now.
NYCFC have a free kick off the SKC foul. This just a step inside that far touchline. Maxi Rodriguez curls this in. It's met by the head of SKC and cleared away. Basong was the first to it for Sporting Kansas City. And now Mason Toy and SKC looking to turn on a counterattack. Shallowy able to settle that ball behind him, works it to the outside. Tommy has one-on-one, opts to give it up to Basong. Whipped to the back post, crashing in, and the shot goes high. A good connection with Jake Davis, but Davis couldn't put the ball on net, and it's a goal kick for NYCFC.
Great connection, not on goal. But the service certainly is something that the weak side defender, Kevin O'Toole in this case, gets over his head, maybe caught a little bit flat-footed, not anticipating it and getting into that spot. And when the fullback can get in, I think a pretty decent half as far as how Peter Vermees will look at this, where he's had both fullbacks influential at times, helping generate the attack, and that's the way Vermees likes it.
NYCFC having a bit of trouble getting forward after the restart, and now they will send this ball up ahead. A foot race. Leibold got to it first, couldn't settle it, felt pressure, and that concedes another corner to NYCFC. That's now 4 in this first half for the boys in blue.
Well, that's Burke Risa with the left peg, and he just launched it. And you put a ball into a channel with a guy the pace of Alonso Martinez. That's something that New York City has recognized now with the emergence of Martinez last year, that a ball in the channel can be dangerous. Did he get past Veloder? No, but New York City gets a corner out of it nonetheless.
Maxi Morales over it, curls this in. It's headed out, and consecutive corners coming for NYCFC here in the waning minutes of this first half.
Keaton Parks looks like he's been the target for Maxi Morales here, the all-time assist leader for New York City FC.
Morales tries his hand again, curls this back post, headed on, and Pulskamp climbs the ladder to make the grab.
Well, Tanasiewicz did well to get that ball back across but it hung in the air a little bit too much. Parks is 6'3", but he can't get above the hands of Polskamp.
That drop kick from John Polskamp, able to flip the pitch again as it's knocked out of play for an SKC throw-in. Now we have a whistle and a foul as an NYCFC player hits the deck. You mentioned Peter Vermees being somewhat pleased with the way his team has played. Obviously, if you're a coach, you'd probably prefer to have the lead as opposed to be 0-0 through 45. Nonetheless, pleased with the way his team has overall performed. If you're Pascal Janssen, what are your takeaways going into the half from how NYCFC has looked?
Well, I think he'll...
As the flag comes up, Maxi Morales offside.
Well, I think that's Ojeda who runs in behind. He and Morales are both, well, guys I like considerably because I could look into their eyes when I speak to them. But that's the pace of Ojeda. I think Pascal Janssen will like the fact that New York City is looking early to get in behind when the opportunity is there. They've created more than Sporting KC in this one. And ultimately, it's going to be about converting, and that's what preseason is for, too. I mean, it's something that over time, perhaps, will benefit the team. That the way they've constructed things, then they can kind of finish them off. Martinez had a couple of good chances. That
is how the first 45 minutes of our final match of day one at the Coachella Valley Invitational goes. 0-0 between SKC and NYCFC through 45 minutes of play. We'll head to break and return for the halftime report in Indio. Awesome.
You have them.
Oh, yeah.
Galaxy Austin, 1-1 St. Louis, Real.
Back in Indio, California, 0-0 through 45 minutes of play between NYCFC and Sporting Kansas City. Both teams had their opportunities in the first half. They're knocking on the door, but no one has found the breakthrough yet. We'll head back to break when we return. The halftime report rolls on from the 2025 Coachella Valley Invitational. It's SKC and NYC deadlocked at 0-0 at the half. I was going to say, because the
Portland.
Back in Indio, California, it's 0-0 at the half between NYCFC and Sporting Kansas City. The 2025 Coachella Valley Invitational, and it is our final matchup of day one of the Coachella Valley Invitational. Back alongside Glenn Crooks, I'm Jake Griffith. But Glenn, this is not it for the Coachella Valley Invitational. There have been some great matchups preceding this contest. We saw a 2-1 Portland win over San Jose. San Jose and Bruce Arena making his debut as the San Jose Quakes head coach. St. Louis and RSL played to a hard-fought 1-1 draw, and LA Galaxy also drawing in their match as well today.
Yeah, I mean, it's you had the chance to call some of these games and along the way, starting this morning. And so it's been a long day for you. You're doing a great job.
Thank
you. I think, and I just wandered around and watched games. And it was nice. It was nice seeing Bruce Arena back with San Jose. And it's a really cool environment here. For any baseball fans who used to go to Vero Beach to see the Dodgers, it's very much like that. Everyone is just kind of, the players, the coaches, they're all in open areas wandering around. You see players, selfies and autographs. Greg Berhalter in the arena, big hug, and they're talking to people. And I most like the environment of the fraternity of coaches, players, and then the supporters. And, of course, LAFC and the LA Galaxy. LAFC 32-52, they weren't all here, but there were a lot of them here, and they were abusing the referee here at Coachella Invitation in their match. But, yeah, so some good games, some new look items for teams. For instance, Brandon Vasquez starting up top for Austin in that 1-1 draw.
We'll head back to break on our stream. NYCFC and Sporting Kansas City tied up 0-0 at the half of our final matchup of day one of the Coachella Valley Invitational. Sorry, they hit me in my ear. They were like, send it to break. I was like, okay.
Yeah, no, just I think that's Johnny Shore.
Back inside Indio, California, it's almost time for the start of half number 2 between NYCFC and Sporting Kansas City. 0-0 through 45 minutes of play, along with Glenn Crooks. I'm Jake Griffith. Thanks for tuning in all day long for what has been an exciting day 1 of the Coachella Valley Invitational. These teams deadlocked, still looking for the first goal in this contest. And a chance to take a look at how that first half went down. Not many highlights because of the defensive nature of that first half, but these teams really did have their chances, Glenn, and as you hinted at it at the end of that first half, if you're Peter Vermees in Sporting Kansas City, you have to like the way your team played.
Yeah, again, for the opening game here, now these teams have played other preseason scrimmages, but it's within the first phase of preseason when, in New York City's case, for instance, they're doing double sessions and they don't really have the legs to play properly. So that's what they're building towards now. So they'll know the little things that worked out well that they've been training on. They'll also identify some of the aspects of the game that didn't go so well, and that's what's going to be worked on next before February 8th when they play their second game here at Coachella. So that's the best way I would look at it. And we won't know what all those little things are because we haven't been in training.
Glancing header on toward Pulse Camp as the whistle sounds, and we're back underway for the second half.
And that's why we talk to the coaches. By the way, anybody that's watching this or listening that's a SiriusXM subscriber, I have a goal of talking to all 14 head coaches here, and they'll be all part of an MLS preview and on my show, The Coaching Academy. So Channel 157, if you're a subscriber. If you're not, I'm not saying you should put the bucks out, but, you might consider it. 24/7 soccer, Jake,
Who can say no to 24/7 soccer?
That's what I'm saying. You do have one change for New York City so far that I could identify. Nick Cavallo from Richmond, Virginia, playing here on the left side right in front of us.
This worked up ahead. Taking the touch is Agustino Heda, the Argentinian. As it's rolled ahead, Monsef Bakrar. Bakrar slides it through, given up to Cavallo. Now Maxi Morales, he'll get it back. Morales stands up across. No one on the receiving end of that. Closest in the vicinity was Fernandez, and Pulse Camp will watch that roll across the end line for a goal kick.
So Cavallo is in for Kevin O'Toole. And in the midfield, Johnny Shore. Interesting, when talking to Pascal Janssen yesterday in his first presser, asked him about the young players and their development, because that was sort of an emphasis with both him and the sporting director. And the name Johnny Shore came up. He brought him up. He said, for example, Johnny Shore has proven that he can play in certain situations on the professional level under pressure. Started the second game, came off the bench of the first game, and now we see him started the second half here at Coachella. And that homegrown might be moving his way into minutes in the midfield. He's getting a good run here anyway in preseason.
Again, giving back into that emphasis of what you talked about in the first half of Pascal Janssen placing heavy importance on the homegrown talent for NYCFC and unlocking that potential. This is NYCFC trying to unlock the contest now. Fighting through challenges. That's Monsef Bakrar.
Another change, Bakrar in for Alonso Martinez. So those are your two strikers to start the season. Martinez, number 1. Bakrar, the understudy.
As the flag comes up from the far assistant referee, ball rolled across the touchline. Bakrar, the 6-foot Algerian, 4 goals in 31 appearances in an NYCFC shirt last season.
So Johnny Shore, New York native, 18 years old, and the quote from Janssen was, I don't care if you're 17 or 37, if you're ready to play and can contribute and are following the plan as we develop this thing to put ourselves in a position to win, then you can play. The 37-year-old is Maxi Morales, who also plays in the middle. I'm assuming that's who he had in mind.
Steered back to the keeper. Very nearly could have been a costly mistake for NYCFC. Good recovery defensively by NYCFC. Johnny Shore, who you mentioned, was in on that recovery, giving credence to Pascal Janssen's claim that he does well under that pressure.
Well, the guy who has spent the most time with him in the club is Matt Pilkington, the New York City FC2 coach, former academy coach. And I was with him after a senior team training session once, and just in a room, and I asked him to point to a player on this list of players that was there that you think, will have the opportunity to advance and play first team ball. And the first guy he went to was Johnny Shore. So, Shore can play the game, and he's showing the new coach just that.
Meanwhile, Sporting Kansas City, a free kick here. If you're SKC, what are you looking for on this set piece?
I was going to be very frank and just say to go up 1-0. But here, you want the ball in front of the keeper and behind the defense in some fashion. And normally, again, a ball whipped is best, even from this distance. Good delivery.
This ball whipped in the area. Off the head of Toy, it goes wide. Head in the hands of Mason Toy. Wanted a better effort, you can tell from his reaction. But, as you said, the delivery was there and the idea is there. Just have to get the finish down.
Fantastic, too. And from that side, remember I was suggesting Maxi Morales in the first half, the in-swinger, much more difficult, in my opinion, for the goalkeeper to deal with and for the defenders to deal with. And you see a righty in-swinger there. Toy, he just couldn't contort his body where his shoulders were facing towards the goal. You can see his back was essentially to the goal when he headed that one, couldn't get it on frame.
Here comes NYCFC. Maxi Morales stymied at the midfield stripe, and a sliding challenge will knock that ball free. We've talked so much about changes on these rosters, these touch lines, also with the roster rules in MLS, but one of the biggest changes is this lifted forward. That is where Cavallo will pick the pieces up and steer it back to Freeze. One of the other big changes for MLS this offseason was the change to tournament participation. Teams must take part in one of the 4 tournaments and no more than 2, but they have the option of U.S. Open Cup, CONCACAF Champions Cup, Leagues Cup, and for the Canadian teams, the Canada Cup.
Now, when you say option, I'd like to say in a way, because this is, as far as my understanding, it's assigned by Major League Soccer. These are the competitions that you'll play. Now, if you qualify for CONCACAF Champions Cup, obviously you're in that. But as far as Leagues Cup and U.S. Open Cup, it was MLS that made the decision, and the top 9 in each conference got into Leagues Cup. That's where you get your 18, and it went from there. So it's a bit more assigned than the clubs making their own choice on this. But, yeah, you can't play in more than 2.
The U.S. Open Cup conversation especially was such a hot-button issue amongst soccer fans last year. Do you think these changes, especially regarding the participation in the Open Cup, do you think it reflects an MLS that is listening to fan feedback?
Partially. I'll say this. You know who won the U.S. Open Cup last year, right? Yeah. LAFC. They can't defend their championship because LAFC 2 is in the U.S. Open Cup, for instance. So it's got some issues still, and the thing that you see mostly pointed out by those, especially those who support the U.S. Open, and you see all kinds of articles, and I mean, there's actually a bylaw, U.S. Soccer Federation, that Tier 1 teams are required to send their senior teams into U.S. soccer sanctioned events. Now, an exception has been made. I don't think exceptions are an issue because you don't want to kill the players.
As this lifted up ahead, Cavallo able to corral that ball in, and now looking for a clearance. A glancing header away. And there's a whistle and a foul. Knowing what I know about the St. Louis soccer community, the city of St. Louis, and the history, one of the biggest things that I saw fans have angst about last year was that St. Louis was not a participant in the U.S. Open Cup. St. Louis City.
Well, there were only 8 out of 29 teams, so
right.
There were a lot of people left out. And they got a phone call from the offices of Major League Soccer, each sporting director, saying, this is what your 2 team will play or your senior team. They were told, that's my contention there is that let the clubs all play and let the coaches and the coaching teams and the sporting staff decide how to utilize their players in a manner that is favorable to their team. So you're going to play a lot of reserve players or second-team players. Anyway, there's a new homegrown rule where there are, I don't know the exact details of it, but the nature of it is that more homegrowns will be able to play more competitions without having to be considered loaned from the 2 team.
On the outside with it is Fernandez, tries to cut this one back. Off the volley, it's blocked. Falls back to Ojeda. Now works it back to Shore, tried the give and go to Shore, who is out of position, and that will roll across the end line for a goal kick.
Well, Shore got that side winding half volley off, but it didn't connect cleanly, also kind of blocked. But there's Julian Fernandez on the right side again, getting it to the left peg. Now, I don't know how many matches that the left back, Leibold, has watched Fernandez play, but he's always going to get it to his left foot. You have to try to prevent that and force him to serve it with the right. And if something good happens based on his right-footed service, then you say, okay, but don't let him whip in the left. Much more dangerous.
A whistle and a foul will bring a stoppage to play.
As Fernandez drawing the foul, nice little hesitation move. And again, moving to the inside with his left. Could you force him towards the sideline or towards his right? You had really kind of 2 defenders there, both his right foot, which he doesn't prefer to use, and then also the touchline.
Just out of the reach of Maxi Morales, who has a foot stuck in, trying to win it back. Toy will give it up. SKC on the move.
Mason Toy wanted an early delivery there. He's doing a good job he's playing in an offside position, so the center backs have to be very aware, and then he's timing to come back to the ball and be onside and then bending off of that on either side of Tanasiewicz or Burke Risa, the central defenders for New York City.
A quick throw in for SKC. Ball at the end line. This one's centered. Cleared away. A short clearance, though. Cavallo really battling in, desperately trying to clear it for NYCFC. What a beautiful ball from Rodriguez. Plays this central, deflected away, a corner conceded. SKC has another set piece.
Well, 2 very important members in the final third this season for Sporting KC, Memo Rodriguez and Eric Tommy, and they certainly combined to do well there. And anytime you draw the set piece, the corner, dead ball, get to run something. Let's see what Sporting KC does here. Toy on the keeper freeze.
Rodriguez will take it from the near flag. Second corner of the match for SKC. Outswinging ball, headed toward goal, it's wide. Second ball worked in, but the flag comes up for offside.
Yeah, Tommy in an offside position. Now, he had run across on that set piece. There was a lot of movement. Tommy going from the far side to the near side, and then he was just square to the goal. He was just framing it, but he framed it in an offside position. If he had just taken a couple of steps back, he might have been able to just tap that home.
Worked up the far touchline by NYCFC. It's Fernandez with it, and back they go. Steered over to Matt Freeze, the 26-year-old American keeper for this NYCFC team. They roll it out wide. Progressing nicely is NYCFC now. Through the middle, it's Morales. Tries to leave it off to Fernandez. Had Memo Rodriguez all over him, and that will be a whistle and a foul. An easy whistle at that for the center referee.
Ilinic toppled. Quick restart.
Risa goes back to that far channel now. Fernandez dispossessed. Counterattacking now is SKC, and instead they'll hold up as Eric Tommy will slow play up through the midfield.
Boy, Mason Toy really riding that last line. He's desperate to receive something over the top, and he's forcing the central defenders, Tanasiewicz on the ball right now, to constantly glance over their shoulder just to make sure they know where he is.
That is Tanasiewicz for a moment. Slipped it over to Burke Risa. And over the head of Ojeda. That will ultimately go for an SKC throw in.
Burke Risa down. You can see a close-up. Risa dealt with a number of different soft tissue issues last year. Bit of a knee. And he is, looks like he's just rubbing the area of the thigh. Hammy, I don't know. It's just a collision. Toy maybe coming in a little late. No call for the referee. Burke Risa, the Norwegian. You saw him ping that ball at the Micha Ilinic, and it's one of the reasons he was acquired by New York City a couple of seasons ago, because of his ability to drive the ball on the switch like that. Rather than having to make two passes to get it to that same spot, he can, with a left peg in particular, that's certainly a weapon. And he's also made himself a better defender. If there was a liability coming in, that was one of them. But his fitness has been an issue at times. Justin Hack, who is a natural midfielder, moved into central defense during the critical moments of New York City's season last year and the playoffs. When Risa got healthy, Justin Hack remained at left center back with Thiago Martins on the right. That's the value of Justin Hack, who's been in the midfield today. But he won the job. He won the left center back job for Burke Risa. And you can see Risa, his day is done.
Risa a little slow to get up, still favoring that right thigh area. He was down in a bit of pain, as you mentioned, Glenn, rubbing it. Risa's day is done, and as are most of the original starters now for both of these teams, as we've reached the hour mark played between SKC and NYCFC.
Colin McCamey, number 73, has come in for New York City, as has their number one draft choice, Max Murray, out of the University of Vermont, the national champions in D1 this year. There he is on the ball now.
What an incredible story Vermont and Rob Dow were this year, their head coach. I had a chance to catch up with him not long after that, and I thought it was so funny. He said, the one thing I have to tell people is, no, I'm not Ted Lasso. I know I have a mustache, but I'm not Ted Lasso. I am not a fictitious European soccer coach with a draw. I'm a Canadian that just won the College Cup. Like,
how about the parade? Burlington.
It's stories like that, though, that make college soccer so fascinating to me. That there is the opportunity, and I guess sport in general, right? The idea of the little guy who was counted out. And I know Vermont's catchphrase was not underdogs, just dogs. They knew going into this tournament that they belonged. Prior to this NCAA tournament, they had 8 NCAA tournament wins over the last 3 seasons. That's up to 10 or 11 now with the College Cup National Championship victory. But still, the idea remains that in college soccer, a team like Vermont can call themselves national champions.
Yeah, an influx of internationals for one, but development. You've got 2 first-rounders out of the University of Vermont. Max Murray is one of them. I talked to Rob Dow extensively about Max Murray. I'll share that in a moment.
Sporting Kansas City probing now. I should say NYCFC. Sporting Kansas City trying to clear this away And it does take a deflection off an NYCFC player and out for a goal kick.
Well, Zidane Yanez, 17-year-old on the field now. He's the number 36, also here on the left side. Another homegrown, Prince Ampansa for the Bronx, New York. He's standing next to Max Murray. Murray, right central, and Ampansa, left central over this last half hour for New York City.
SKC back on their heels, trying to clear the lines. Mason Toye able to work it over to the far side. Ian James on the pitch as well at the moment as Toye looking to get it back. Toye is in! Toye misses just wide of the near post. Mason Toye has had a handful of near misses that he'll want back today.
Well, the two central defenders who left, Tanasiewicz and Risa, veteran players. They've seen players in an offside position put themselves on, and you could see Max Murray struggled a little bit with that, stepped a little bit into the midfield, and then opposite movements put Mason Toye in behind, and he's got to hit the target. Case closed. That has to be on frame. Now, the story about Murray, which Rob Dow talked about, well, first of all, he's 6'3", and he says he's very good in the air in front of the goal, attacking corner kicks in particular. And he said he was also a very good basketball player, and he said that one of the reasons he's so good in front of the goal is because he has great feet, which he developed through basketball. So his movements in order to get to the front post or wherever he needs to go, he said it really worked to his advantage in set-piece situations.
Here's an opportunity. NYCFC rolls this central, and instead it's intercepted by Sporting Kansas City.
Bakrar with a cutback, nobody home. And once Bakrar gets into that position, it's incumbent on a midfielder. Somebody behind the play needs to fire up and get right into that spot. Diagonal ball on the deck, firm from Bakrar. Really, you're taught almost to put it into a spot that can't be defended, but you need an attacking player to also show themselves.
Intercepted and worked back to the keeper for NYCFC. And Ponsa now has it.
I just had this in front of me. The other Leagues Cup thing I wanted to note is that at 9 from each conference going from MLS, except Vancouver that finished 7th because they're in the Canadian Championship and the CONCACAF Champions Cup, so they could only participate in 2 events. So Leagues Cup will not be one of them. So San Diego, the expansion side that didn't play last year, becomes the 18th team. And then you wonder, how did that happen? Why did the team in the next place behind Vancouver? Perhaps. So
I think the
these
real
questions may be answered someday.
The real question I think people should be asking, and Minnesota United's social media admin asked this: how many Canadians do you need to sign to qualify for the Canada Cup?
Now.
Hey, I mean, listen, Minnesota United, Dane St. Clair, Tani Oluwaseyi, put them in the Canada Cup, right? Yeah. Minnesota's living there, I can tell you, it's basically Canada. It sure is as cold as Canada is at times, as the throw in from NYCFC. Boys in blue working the ball around nicely here. They have it on the outside, looking for goal as it just skips over the outstretched hands. It does stay in, though.
That was Tavon Gray, who's also come into the game for this last half hour at right back in place of Micha Ilinic. Gray has not been a full-time participant in preseason, just a slight knock. And one question I had for Pascal Janssen before the game with Ilinic starting, I just wondered if Ilinic is ahead of Gray based on training in the first 2 scrimmages, and that's what he said. Not necessarily. It's Tavon hasn't been able to be in it full-time. So that was a strict competition last year at right back, Gray and Ilinic, and it seems to be in play again this season.
Tavon Gray, 28 appearances, 8 goal contributions last year, had 7 assists. Along with the 1 goal was pressure applied by Toye on goal, and it goes deflecting off of him out for a goal kick. Mason Toye is sniffing around desperately wants that breakthrough for SKC.
He was a Minnesota guy for a while, but he's also earning more time based on his performance here. We have a change in goalkeepers as well. Should have noted that. That's Thomas Romero, who represents El Salvador, the national team level, and his feet not quick enough on that two-touch. Toy almost caused some pretty major damage there against Romero.
Both teams making a keeper change as Ryan Shawi in the SKC goal in place of John Polskamp. Out for a throw-in on that far touchline as we approach the 70th minute. Still no score. Stephen Afrifa also on the pitch. Speaking of Canada, a Canadian. It is Afrifa, 4 goals, 2 assists. Led this SKC team in successful dribbles in his 24 appearances last season. Afrifa, former FIU, the Panther at the collegiate level, was looking for a corner. Instead, it will be a goal kick. Pressure coming now, collapsing in on NYCFC. Have to move quickly with it. This is Ortiz. Losing ground to Sporting Kansas City. Forward they go, looking for options somewhere. One ran down by SKC, played in the middle. It's Vargas. Still Vargas now, gives it up outside. And a little too much weight behind that pass.
Yeah, just over anxious. There he is, Vargas. Just had a little bit more time. Sometimes when you're in that tight area close to goal, you rush things a little bit.
Vargas, native of Honduras, 20 appearances last season, 2 goals and an assist for SKC. Here's Toy turning on a quick counter. Ian James now with it. Elects to give it up to Shelton. James carries it forward. Finds an option on the outside. Options all around, in fact, for SKC. Good defensive recovery by NYCFC. It's intercepted, though, by James.
Another player that the New York City supporters might be wondering about, Malachi Jones. And I thought of Malachi when we were talking about Max Murray. Malachi, the top draft pick a season ago, who showed a lot of promise but then had that very serious injury when he collided with Mason Stradohar, the goalkeeper for Orlando City at the time, both suffering major fractures to their legs. And Malachi is not on the active roster today. He's still working his way back, and that's an injury that obviously, until he's certain and 100%, is not going to be involved in the battle. So that's the Malachi Jones update, too. And just Hannes Wolf, Santi Rodriguez, Thiago Martins, all nursing soft tissue things. Hannes Wolf nearly back. Santi just getting a rest really more than anything. And Thiago Martins has a calf.
Up the near channel now. Here comes NYCFC. A big collision. It's won back by Sporting Kansas City.
I've wandered around and watched games on both fields. There's 2 fields here at this complex at Coachella Valley, the Empire Polo Club. And the grass is beautiful. But a lot of players slipping. So I don't know if they want to
This lifted to the back post, headed on goal, and a save made.
Not sure if players want to consider a change of boots, and I don't know the exact grass surface here. It's different, though. It's a little different than the players are used to. Nice snap header by Bakrar, but right at the keeper.
Afrifa glancing header on as we approach the 75th minute.
Still the best chance of the second half. Mason Toy getting it on goal, one-on-one with the keeper and just missing it wide.
Cavallo elects to go back to Umpanza with it.
And you do give the keeper, Matt Freese, a little credit on that Toy miss before Romero came in. Just making himself big. And sometimes the big keepers who can, have that ability to let the shooter know you might not have as much of an angle here as you think. And then they try to be too fine with the finish.
Back comes SKC, led by Stephen Afrifa. Has options out wide. Shelton now, surveying. Rolled up ahead to the outside, quickly jump-starting the SKC attack. That one falls through the middle. Toy was in the vicinity. Can't win it back, though, for SKC. That does win it back for Sporting Kansas City. This ball centered. Second ball deflected away. Sporting Kansas City starting to plant their flag a bit in this end. Here's Vargas. His cross cut out. It will be a Sporting Kansas City throw. Ian James will backtrack, guide this back to the keeper. It's Ortiz. Ortiz up ahead. Vargas rolls it through to Toy, and at the last moment, in from behind, Tavon Gray deflects it aside. What an effort.
And the fact that he had to come from the opposite side of the field to make that happen. And one of your rules as a defender is who's the danger player, and don't worry about being in position. Gray identified that, and the sliding tackle, corner kick.
Third corner of the second half for Sporting Kansas City. Outswinging ball. Toy first to it. Sporting will maintain possession. Stretch pass ahead from the keeper. Tight on that end line, and it is deflected out by Sporting Kansas City, and NYCFC will have a throw. The Sporting KC Academy product, Leo Cristiano, was the one down there tight in that corner for SKC. And now here comes NYCFC. Cavallo taken down, and that will be a whistle and a free kick.
No argument there. So just in, I know we've still got about 12 minutes left, but I know a lot of supporters on both sides. Sporting KC, I learned, very rarely are their matches streamed over the last several years. So this is very fun for their supporters to be able to see their team, New York City. there was certainly some anticipation as to what does Pascal Janssen ball look like. And I can't say that there was a massive difference in style. The one thing I would say is that it seemed like there was a greater emphasis to maybe get it out to the wings, an Ojeda and a Fernandez who started in the 4-2-3-1, and they aren't classic wingers. They're not playing with heels along the touchline, get the ball and go 1v1. They're still carrying the ball central. But there were some options there that New York City created opportunities, drew some fouls, and I wonder if that's one thing that will be taken away here.
Cavallo with the interception as it's won back by NYCFC. Now Cristiano looking for a free foot ahead. They'll connect on that far touchline.
And New York City really didn't play with a pivot in the midfield. It was Parks and Hack a little deeper at the start, where a true six might get the ball, swing it to the other side, back and forth. So that sort of rhythm wasn't particularly present today. I am going to have a chance to sit with Pascal Janssen, for a good period of time in the next week or so. And for supporters, that one you'll be able to hear at some point on a podcast or Sirius XM, depending on where you listen. And I'll also certainly play some clips of that on social media. But it'll be interesting to see what he thinks after this and one other game.
It's San Diego, St. Louis, and Minnesota United FC, the upcoming three on the Coachella Valley Invitational docket for NYCFC. Sporting Kansas City has Minnesota United FC as well coming up, 1:30 Central Time on Saturday afternoon. Sometimes referred to as the friendliest rivalry in MLS, Sporting Kansas City and Minnesota United. They're not really rivals. They've had some really good matches over the years against each other. Everything deserves a name, though, right? You have to give even the most loosest of rivalries a name.
Yeah, just like everybody's got to have a nickname. Every rival and rivalry match has to have a name. I think this thing that stood out to me in Pascal Janssen's presser on this ball over the top.
Shui comes off his line and heads it away from danger, and that will be an NYCFC throw.
Now, I know keepers don't spend a lot of time heading the ball, but they do have to spend some time mimicking those situations. When they have to come out of the box, it's a hop where they can't use their foot, and they need to get it out of danger, and Shui did a really nice job there.
Here's Vargas.
Those are some of my favorite soccer moments.
Worked up ahead to Toy. And just flicked out of the region of Toy. Also had a Frifa there with him as well.
Yeah, that's 2v1. So Tavon Gray did well. Wasn't going to fool around at all, just sweep it away. But New York City also has to be aware of that overload that just occurred and how. It was just a quick switch.
Here they come again. Vargas to the outside. Has it knocked away from him. Across the end line it goes, and that will be another corner for Sporting Kansas City.
The thing from Janssen, bulletproof mindset. Out of everything he had to say, I think that really stood out. And he's really referring to staying together no matter what and being bulletproof, not impacted by the away supporters at LAFC, which they'll encounter their second week.
Cross comes in, out swinging. A short header back on by SKC. Flicked away for a clearance by NYCFC and volleyed back down. Challenge misses. It's still Sporting Kansas City. Cross deflected initially. That one hacked away for a clearance now. Frifa comes up with the touch through a crowd. Lifts it in the area. Afrifa is in! But the whistle sounds and waves the goal off. No breakthrough to be found after Stephen Afrifa's heroics erased by the whistle.
Well, that's a delicate, I can tell he's played some futsal. There's little question of that. To lift that ball in that manner, in the area. Drew Baera, who's playing in the midfield of homegrown right now, just struggled a little with that, the hop of the ball, didn't judge it properly, kind of got over and behind, and that enabled that opportunity. So
coming up on the final 5 minutes of day one here at the Coachella Valley Invitational. This one played up ahead. It was Ian James with the recovery, able to knock it away from Monsef Bakrar, and now we have an injured SKC player.
Well, when Tavon Gray, the first homegrown player from the Bronx, signed by New York City, he was joined by Prince Ampansa this past year. But when he first arrived, I don't want to say this definitively, but he was not able to drive a ball like that in behind. 7 assists last year for Tavon. He's really improved his delivery, which was a major fallacy in his game. And that ball to Bakrar just didn't have the pace to get him behind on that occasion. But he looked up, drove the ball. There was a lot of space there. There's a gentle breeze in his face, and it held up nicely. And the ability to play that ball has really added to his game.
Vargas gets free up ahead. Can't take the touch. And now Vargas goes down.
And a penalty.
Points to the spot, does the official, and a penalty awarded. NYCFC pleading their case.
And gets booked. So what Romero is arguing about is that he got a piece of the ball first, and I believe the way the ball moved, he got at least a fingertip on it, something on it when he came in. But brave play by the attacker, and now Sporting KC could go up.
A chance to break the deadlock. Toy misses wide. Unbelievable. Mason Toy, a chance for what would surely seem like a late winner off a penalty, misses wide. It has been that kind of day for Mason Toy.
Well, expected goals for penalties are .80. That means attackers are expected to make, based on analytics, 8 out of 10. And, well, Mason Toy just contributed to the the negative side of that. That's a poor miss.
NYCFC breathes a sigh of relief, coming away unscathed off a late penalty conceded. We still play scoreless, 0-0 across the 87th minute now.
So that's 2 times he's missed the target wide right. One was in the run of play when he got him behind the defense, one-on-one with the keeper. And then this one, the dead ball from the spot, pushed them both wide right.
And when you couple that with the glancing header miss he also had earlier in the second half as well, over the bar, it's been a tough day if you're Mason Toy. He's turned in a very solid shift in terms of runs and passes and chances generated, but the finishing just hasn't been there so far.
Well, and the way Kansas City plays with one striker, generally, there's only room for either Dejan Joveljic or Mason Toy. It's going to be Joveljic, but Toy is trying to certainly play himself into a position with his club and under Peter Vermees to be the natural next choice look, he's performed pretty well. He's put great pressure on the goal. Nearly took the ball off of Romero earlier in the half as well. So there's been a lot created, just not executed.
Up ahead to a free throw for SKC. Approaching the final minute of day one of this Coachella Valley Invitational. Up ahead to Vargas. That's cleared away from Vargas.
You've done a few games here. Do they play stoppage time?
They do not. No stoppage time. It's a hard out like college, right when they hit 90. Although
right.
I will say in the Portland match against San Jose, they did not do a hard out at 45 because Portland was taking a corner, and they ultimately scored off the corner.
Wow.
And then they whistled for halftime. So maybe San Jose feeling a little hard done there.
How did Bruce handle that one? Any objections?
To be honest, I didn't see any overt yelling or shouting or objections, and so I think a good interpretation is he handled it well.
Okay, good. I'll be talking to Bruce on Monday. Really looking forward to that. Great to see him back in, and he's in great physical shape.
There's the whistle. Full time has been reached in Indio, California. A hard-fought 0-0 draw after 90 minutes of play. We'll head to break, but stick around. The post-match report when we return. SKC 0, NYC FC 0, full time in Indio. Back inside the Empire Polo Grounds in Indio, California, 0-0 at full time between Sporting Kansas City and NYC FC, along with Glenn Crooks. I'm Jake Griffith. It's the post-match report and a chance to look at our match highlights. Glenn, neither team finds the back of the net, but as we're seeing now, both teams had their opportunities. They were knocking all match long.
Well, that may have been the best for New York City FC. Behind the D in front of the keeper, it skips past the defender, and Julian Fernandez, he was shielded a bit and therefore was unable to collect it and get it in or hit it first time. Here's O'Toole again. Parks just overrunning the near post. If you get past that near post, then really you need to flick on and try to get it to the back post.
This is Joveljic here racing it down, setting things up for SKC. Ultimately not to be for Sporting Kansas City. Set pieces were a big theme of day one at the Empire Polo Club. These teams combined for 9 corners between the two of them. That shot goes rolling wide, and then here's a blast from distance that catches the fingertips.
Yeah, it's Tavon Gray who got that service, and we talked about his effectiveness, 7 assists in 2024, and there Monsa Bakrar getting high into the air. But from 12 yards out, and he was backing up a little bit, generally you can't get enough velocity on that. Mason Toy, defended by Tavon Gray.
Sporting Kansas City and NYCFC play to a 0-0 draw to close out day 1 of the Coachella Valley Invitational. This would concede a late penalty, but Mason Toy would later miss that penalty, and that essentially was the last gasp effort of the match to seal it up at 0-0. For Glenn Crooks and the rest of our broadcast crew, I'm Jake Griffith saying so long from Indio, California, 0-0 to close out day 1 between NYCFC and Sporting Kansas City.